So welcome to Improving Tank Aiming. The purpose of this video is to just make sure that our tank always takes the short route. So we'll end up with our tank on the top of a hill with a literal glass ceiling in the sky to help us put some pressure on the aiming system, and us and the AI tanks, by the end of it, should be aiming more directly, no barrels going around the wrong way. So I'll see you in there. So let's look at improving this aim. Now, these two AI tanks, I'm not going to delete them this time because you may have placed them very carefully. What it is about them that we don't want when we're trying to do this aiming testing is we don't want them shooting at us. So we can just select them, and then under their details pawn section, you can say auto possess AI disabled. And the effect that'll have is that the AI tanks just don't aim at us. They're just sitting ducks ready for us to shoot at them. I can't resist shooting at this guy with my crazy beach ball projectile. There you go. Okay, great. So now we can stand and look much more carefully at our aiming. So what's wrong with the aiming? Well, you've noticed probably that it does some strange things. Sometimes it goes the long way round, but also look what happens if I point at the sky. Well, firstly, we need to be careful when we look at this. This is only moving the barrel when we get a solution to the aiming and it hits something in the world, if you remember how the aiming component works. So that we can focus on one thing at a time, I'm just going to go to the tank blueprint and turn up the launch speed to say 20,000 and just test that is enough to get the projectile even right over to the other side of the world. So yeah, it's finding a solution even on that hillside there. So now we are saying that, okay, it's only aiming now when it finds something to hit. But look what happens if we aim at the sky. You see it's slewing round crazily? So what's going on there? Why is it trying to aim even though we're not hitting anything? If we go to to the lit button here and down to visibility collision, you'll see there is nothing to hit out there. It is just the sky. So what's going on? There's something wrong with the code in the tank player controller, because that's the thing that tells it where to aim. So I'm interested in whether this get sight ray hit location thing, which is the Boolean that determines whether we aim or not, I'm interested in what that is every frame. So I'm going to just factor it out of here. I'm just going to say auto or bool. It is going to be a bool, so let's just do that this time. Bool, get sight ray hit location, and I better give it a name. B got hit location equals that. Okay, now I've factored it out so that I can log it. So I'll pop it back into the brackets. So far we've done nothing, we've just moved that out. But what this does mean now is that before we even go into the if statement, we can now log this. Now, how do you log a Boolean, I wonder if you know? What do you think? What do you think I'm going to type? Any idea? Okay, well, a Boolean's internally stored as an integer, so one of the easiest ways of doing that is to use %i for integer. If you were to go to printf, C++, something like that, then in the printf reference, you will get this here, signed decimal integer. I'll pop this in the lecture resources for you, that link. Okay, so an easy way to get the answer out of a bool is to just say %i. Then we can pop the Boolean in, and we can log that every frame. It's going to be quite instructive. Let's have a look. What I'm hoping will happen is it will say, yes, I've got a hit when I'm aiming at anything like a tank, the ground, or the even, well, not when I hit the sky, basically. So the tank or the ground. Anything where the visibility collision, when we go to this button and click there, anywhere where that's visible, I should be getting 1. And then when I go up there, I should be getting 0. So let's see if that's the case. Let me just clear the log. Not sure I am yet. Yeah, so we're not getting 0. It's not saying I can't hit anything, even though it's aiming at the sky. So what's wrong? Well, let's go look at the code. What's the method that it calls? It is calling get sight ray hit location. Let's look at get sight ray hit location. Look, by default, if it can't get a look direction, it's returning true. Well, that's wrong. It should be returning false. And the other problem with it is that if this thing here fails, we should also return false, but this thing here is a Boolean. So we want to return that. So our two simple changes are we return false by default and we return the result of this get look vector hit location. That way we will generally get false and we'll only get true if we actually hit something that is visible. So let me recompile. And as I say, what I'm hoping now is that when I aim at anything that's not grey in this visibility collision view, that we get a 0 being logged out and that the aiming will stop. So let's have a look. Up at the sky, yeah, 0 gets logged out, and then down at the ground or a tank, and up at the sky. Great. Okay, so that's good news. That's much better. Now, to test that a little bit further and give us the ability to aim right up in the air, a little trick would be you could put a glass ceiling in here. I'll just show you how to do that. And that will allow us to aim right up to really test the movement of the barrel. So you could pop a cube in the scene fairly high. I'm going to make sure the padlock's undone and scale it by 1000, 1010. And if I come down, there it is. It's all big and black. I'm going to put it up a bit higher so there's a gap between it and the mountains. And then from the starter pack, I'm just going to assign a glass material to it. So by putting a literal glass ceiling in here, something's gone funny. That's because I chose the wrong thing. Glass. There you go. And what's happened to the scaling? You know what I did? I changed the static mesh in my hurry. So what you've actually got is you've got a cube is your static mesh, and your material should be glass. Cool. All right, so let's have a look. If I now aim there between the glass and the mountain, I get 0 logged out, and when I aim at the glass, I get 1. The other benefit of this is it means we can actually test what happens if we aim really high in the sky. What happens if I'm aiming there, or up here, or there? You know, and is our aiming behaving itself? Let's try going up onto the mountaintop for a minute. I'll get the Xbox controller going and just make sure now that we have pretty much a full sphere of places that we can aim, that the aiming is behaving itself. So it's important that aiming behaves even when the tank's on a slope like this. I'm going to just aim at the glass ceiling, fire, make sure it hits that point on the glass ceiling. It does appear to. Let's aim behind me. I want to make sure that the aiming always takes the shortest route as well from where we are to where we want to be. So maybe it's better to go even further up this hill. So I can really, from the top of a hill, get a huge, almost like a sphere of different places that you can aim. You want to put pressure on your aiming system because you can be pretty sure that your player will at some point. Look, that's going the wrong way. Do you see that? It's like, what are you doing, barrel? Or turret, rather. You could have gone much shorter distance. So this is our other problem with the aiming. Let me just move the player start up here because I think this would be a cool place for the player start, right on top of the hill. So if I just grab it, move it in that plane, move it up to the top of the hill, test that. Yeah, we land on top of the hill and don't fall off. Cool. So how then are we going to fix that problem with the aiming? Well, that's going to be your challenge. Let me just get you to the right place. It's in the tank aiming component, our problem. And if you remember what we do, we work out the difference between the barrel and the aim, and then we just do a rotate by an amount of yaw. What we need to do is protect that and say, well, it depends how much yaw we're trying to do. If it's more than 180 degrees, then go the opposite way. That's the hint. That's basically what we're doing. So I want you to make your turret take the short route. Use a simple if statement. Rotate that so you always take the short route and test it with player and AI tanks working again. Go ahead, pause the video and see if you can make that take the short route now. Okay, welcome back. So I think this is relatively simple. You can log out the yaws if you want. To save time, I'm just not going to bother. I'm simply going to say, if this delta rotator.yaw is less than 180 degrees, so it turns out there's still a bug in this code actually, but I'm going to fix that in a few lectures' time. If you want to fix it now, just change delta rotator.yaw for fmath : abs delta rotator.yaw, like the annotation at the bottom of the screen. Or leave your code like this. Observe the bug, which is that it doesn't aim properly when you are changing from either side of -x in the landscape space. So if you point your aim down towards -x, behind where my tank typically has been, which is why I didn't spot it, then the aim will go around the wrong way. And we'll fix that in a few lectures' time. And you can always play around with the sign of these things if you're not sure which way it should be. If it's less than 180 degrees, then do what we always did. Otherwise, what I want to do is simply rotate in the opposite direction. So that's pretty meaningful. You just say minus like that. Okay, and I think I'll make a comment here to say always you're the shortest way. That's pretty simple, right? So just added a simple if case in there. Let's see if that works. So we'll spawn on top of the hill in a minute. And what we're looking to do is to make sure that we never end up with the aiming going in a crazy haphazard opposite direction. I'll also, just for fun in a moment, re-enable the AI tanks. But first, let's make sure our aiming behaves. So it's aiming at the sky, aiming at there. That's difficult to say because it's so close to us, but there. And then I'd expect it to go left. Yeah, that to me looks like it's always taking the shortest route now. So if you find any use cases where it doesn't, let me know, but that's looking a lot better. Just going to re-enable the AI on these enemy tanks here. So you select them, you say auto possess AI placed in world, so they have been placed in the world, their AI will get possessed. Going to grab the Xbox controller, dive down the hill, and of course we're falling over, which is always quite fun. And are they aiming properly? It doesn't really matter if I fall over. It's fine if we get hit. That in a moment, we're going to change these projectiles so they don't send the tank flying quite so much. But right now, it's actually quite useful to be hit around a little bit and to do some crazy stuff, because again, it introduces really weird conditions in the game that you wouldn't expect and allows us to say, well, is this aiming working or isn't it working? So I don't mind being upside down. I don't mind all that mess. Just want to drive around and make sure that the aiming works. But I'm fairly convinced it does. So I'm going to get rid of this unnecessary log entry in here, just by searching the whole project actually for UE log, and just ask myself, what logs do I really want? Well, I don't want this one anymore. I can leave this as a Boolean. That won't slow things down very much. And that's it. That's all we have. In fact, while I'm here, it's reminded me to just look for any to-dos in the project. We'll have to do that when we next look at the AI. We'll look at the AI shortly about the acceptance radius and limiting the AI's firing rate. Yep, good. Okay, so that is it. We have better aiming than we had before. I quite like starting on top of the hill, so I think I'm going to do that. And well done getting this far. Hopefully your barrels are aiming in the shortest direction, and it's crazy, these projectiles. And it's all a bit of fun, so I'll see you in the next video.